If you are a regular to this channel, you will know that I own a Ford F150 Lightning. I actually have owned two. The first one was unfortunately written off after a winter accident involving a power pole, and the less we say about that, the better. But one of the reasons we purchased the F150 Lightning in the first place was because of this, the Ford Charge Station Pro, and because of all of this, which is right back there beyond the span panel, is a home integration system. It's an add-on made by a company called Delta that Ford worked with in collaboration with Sunrun, and for $10,000 it makes it possible for you to power your home from your F-150 Lightning in the event of a power cut or a natural disaster, or, as will be the case later today, your utility says please don't use any electricity and you manually turn off the breaker for 3 or 4 hours to earn money, powering your home off the truck instead. That's what we're going to be doing later on today. Now, we put this system in nearly 2 years ago, in fact coming up on 2 years ago, and it's only really worked properly in the last 8 months, and it still doesn't automatically switch over if the truck is asleep. You have to go out, unplug the truck and then plug it back in, and then it will kick in. So there are still some bugs to be squished, but during the July 4th holiday, and we did take a full week off, I came up with a little bit of software for Home Assistant that allows me to monitor the state of both the charging station and also the inverter system. And it means that I have a little more data about when power cuts are happening, because sometimes up here in the mountains they happen randomly at night and you wake up in the middle of the night and there's no power. But it also hopefully paths the way for future automation at home so that I will be able to power things down if a power cut happens, because you have backup batteries elsewhere in the house. So today I'm going to talk you through what I wrote on my holidays. It's called Local-fcsp. It's an integration you can download from GitHub for Home Assistant if you have Home Assistant and you also happen to have a Ford Charge Station Pro. It automatically detects if you have a home integration system or not. If you have a home integration system, it adds some extra stuff. If you just have the charging station, it just lets you talk to the charging station. At the moment, it's all completely passive, so you can't control charging. That's something I'd like to do in the future. But today's video is about the start of the project, what I've done so far, and how you can get involved if you want to take part yourself. But you know what? It is really hot outside today. It's going to hit like 36, 37 degrees Celsius, which is too hot in Fahrenheit. And the sun is just about to sneak into the space where I'm hiding in the shade. So I'll see you inside. For those who don't know, Home Assistant is an open source home automation system, which, unlike all of the home automation systems that came before it, most of which were commercial and pretty expensive, is one that you can roll yourself and install completely free of charge if you have a spare computer somewhere in your home. It can be a Raspberry Pi, it could be a virtual image somewhere in a system such as Unraid, which is how I've got mine installed, or if you are not particularly computer savvy, you could also buy something called the Home Assistant Green, which is like a hub with everything ready to go that you could just put somewhere in your home. But the most important thing here is that Home Assistant is completely configurable. All of the additions are open source, and it's a very low cost way of getting into home automation. Although I will honestly say here, the more you get into it and the more excited you become about it, likely the more expensive it will become. I have just ordered some air quality sensors for my Home Assistant because I want to know what the air quality outside the studio is like. What you're seeing right now is the PowerFlow Plus card. It's an add-on for Home Assistant, and it's showing you very nicely all of the data regarding my home's power use. So it tells me what the emissions of the local electrical grid is right now, but that shouldn't be too much of a concern for me because, as you can see, I'm generating 9.83 kilowatts of energy on the roof of my home, and I'm exporting nearly 5 kilowatts of that to the electrical grid. You can also see some of the other things in my home, the electricity that we're using. So this is the server room. We're using 1.56 kilowatts. We're also using 873 watts to run the home AC, and then a little bit more to run the HVAC for the server room. And you just see that the main AC in the house just turned off, so it went down to 48 watts. You'll also see things like my water. This shows what my water heater power has been, and it also shows what my sewerage and septic energy consumption has been. You might notice there is a straight line. Don't worry, that's not a bug in Home Assistant. The server that I was using that this is installed on had to go down earlier on today because it needed a new disk, and so I just powered everything down for a bit while I fixed that. But Home Assistant can also do things like this. So this is information from my F150 Lightning that I have portrayed here on a custom card, and then one here for my Chevrolet Bolt EV. And the integrations that bring those respective pieces of information into Home Assistant are add-ons that you can add from a custom store. Now that custom store is HACS. So this is what HACS looks like for me, but if I go to the HACS page, HACS is the Home Assistant Community Store. It's a custom integration, and in Home Assistant, integrations are basically little bits of code that add functionality to the base Home Assistant setup, and it allows you to install custom code integrations that are not included in the main Home Assistant setup. And I have plenty of different custom integrations. So if I go back to my HACS here, you'll see I've got loads of cool additions that people have written. So for example, this one is a Peloton. I don't actually have a Peloton, I have a fake Peloton, but I do track my workouts and my energy and all of that, and so that is taken care of there by Peloton. I have a couple of themes in here. I used to have a thinking cleaner. I haven't removed that yet. The battery has died on my thinking cleaner, unfortunately, but I do have that, and you can see all the other things that are added. And yes, I do have LCARS too, although it's currently turned off. If you are a Star Trek fan, you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I have written a piece of software called Local-fcsp. So that's Local Ford Charge Station Pro, or Ford Charge Station Pro Local, whichever way around you want to call it. And it is an integration for Home Assistant that actually wraps some Python code that was written by this guy, Eric Pullen. And he has written this really excellent Python library, which is a library as like a collection of pieces of code that talks to the Ford Charge Station Pro if your Ford Charge Station Pro is connected to your local network. And if you have a Ford Charge Station Pro, the chances are you probably have connected it to the internet, so you can do things like check on the state of charge and make sure that the unit can get software updates. If you have a home integration system, it's essential, because otherwise it won't get all of the cool updates that have actually enabled the thing and made it work. But that previous library I showed you that is done by Eric, and I will link to it in the down below, that's just a Python library. So all I've done is I've written some code to make it pretty in Home Assistant. So to add my integration to your Home Assistant, you need to obviously understand Home Assistant, have installed it. You also need to have installed HACS, which you will see in the left-hand corner I have here. And then what you're going to need to do is go up here and you're going to go to Custom Repositories, and you need to add this custom repository. So you need to add, it's https github.com, a minor journey, Local-fcsp, and then you need to tell it is an integration. Then you hit add. Obviously it already exists for me. You won't get that error, so you don't need to worry about it, but it is in there. And you can see that is my GitHub page in the description there. Once you've done that, you then need to go to Devices and Services, click Add Integration, and then you need to look for local Ford charge station Pro. And then here it will ask you some information about your Ford Charge Station Pro. And the most important thing here is the IP address. Now, it defaults to 192.168.1.100, which is not going to be the IP address of your Ford Charge Station Pro. But if you know it, you can just add it in here. I'm just going to add mine in there. And then here we've got timeout and scan interval. Now they default to 60 seconds. You could actually change the scan interval down to as low as about 30 seconds if you want. If you go below 30, like 20 seconds, for example, you can actually cause issues with the charge station because it's got a very low powered computer chip inside it. And if you're constantly polling it for a status, it can actually stop working properly. We've been doing some debug testing, and I say we, myself and a couple other folks, and seems to be that 30-second scan interval is fine, but if you go below that, you start to have issues. So I'm just going to leave it at 60 seconds as default. I'm going to leave debug on because obviously I'm the person who developed it, so I want to make sure it behaves itself. If you don't know the IP address of your Ford Charge Station Pro, the chances are you probably got like a router somewhere in your home, and if you open that page, you'll probably see it listed there somewhere, and you'll be able to figure out its IP address from there. Or the Ford app, I believe, the Ford Setup app also has it. So once you put the right IP address in, you can then hit submit, and everything will hopefully appear. Now, it takes about 60 seconds for this to appear, which is a bit on the slow side. And I'm not entirely sure why it takes so long. I'm just going to assume that's just because it's sometimes the charge station takes a while to go through this initial setup process in Home Assistant. But once it's in there, things are a whole lot quicker and a whole lot easier. All right, so it's finished. It's found the Charge Station Pro. It's found the home integration system. If you don't have a home integration system fitted, it won't show you this second bit. And I've broken it out because I found it was easier to do it that way. So I'm just going to say outside, because it's outside. It asks you where it is. And then I'm going to hit finish. And then it gives me very simple information about the system and whether it's working and everything like that. So if I hit info and then it says see attributes, so I'm going to click on there. It will show me things like the model name, model number, the serial number, the software version that we're running on the Charge Station Pro at this point, its IP address, obviously you already knew that, the hardware current limit. That is, there's inside that little unit, there's a physical dial that you can change that your installation will have done. So inside this unit, there is a physical hardware limiting switch that your installer, or you if you installed it yourself, should have turned so that you don't break your electrical system in your home. Basically, it has to be configured to correspond to the breaker that the unit is attached to. So if you had a 50 amp breaker that this charging station was connected to, you'd have to turn the switch inside so that it would be limited to 40 amps. But we have a 100 amp supply for this unit, so it says 80 amps, which is the maximum allowable current that unit can use. You'll see it says vehicle connected. There's some back end stuff going on here, but you can see it will report it's been charging the vehicle, powering home, vehicle connected, charging vehicle. So it changes depending on what's happening. And then if you have, or I should probably also notice here, there's something here called info raw.json. If you want to have that extra information, you can just click enable, and then it will bring in extra raw data into the app. I'm not going to do that right now, but we'll go over to the inverter, and you'll see here, inverter is off. That means the inverter is currently not powering the home. Last updated 14 seconds ago. And again, see attributes. If I click on that, I'm going to get the same information, or the same kind of information, the serial number of the inverter, all of that good stuff, and its raw state. But this status here, again, is based off some interpretation that I've done. And you can see here, flying through the space of the greatest of ease was not a state produced by the inverter. This was me just testing some logic for another part of my integration that I'm going to talk about in a second. But inverter off means it's not powering the home, and then if there is a power cut, it will go to preparing to power home, and then it will go to powering home. And that enables you to do cool things like determine if there is a power cut. Now, why is that important? Because obviously if the power goes off, the power has gone off. You're not basically going to turn around and go, I don't know there's a power cut, but your computers may not know. And if you're like me, you have additional battery backups somewhere in your home that operate to ensure things like computers and gaming systems can be shut down gracefully in the event that the power goes out. They might not have a particularly long life, so you might only get 5 or 10 minutes to turn everything off, but at least you have that as a capability. And the really nice thing about this particular integration is that I can, and I'm spoofing it right now, I can tell the house that there's been a power cut, and I can tell the house that there's been a power cut, and then based off of that, then I can trigger other actions in the home. So for example, I could tell the server room to shut down all of the transport evolved servers that we don't need. So we can say, hey, turn all of these servers off, make sure that they don't lose any data. And then when the power comes back on, we can actually power the house back on again. So as soon as it switches from whatever the state is to inverter off again, then what we'll see is that the house immediately comes back up. Now, bear in mind, I just faked that. I didn't actually have a power cut, so it didn't quite look quite right, but let me show you how I did that. So how did I know to tell the system that there was a power cut? Well, if you go to my local Ford Charge Station Pro, and we see this line here, inverter off, if there is a power cut, it goes to preparing to power home, and then it goes to powering home. As I said, ignore all of the debug things. That was me testing code. But right now it says inverter off, right? So that means everything is fine. The house is powered. It's all good. If for some reason that changes to preparing to power home or powering home, I have written a little custom template that is right here, and it says power cut, friendly name, power cut, and then I have this value template here. And for those who don't know code, it basically says, it basically checks to see the sensor of the home integration system, and if it's equal to inverter off, then there's not a power cut. But if it's anything else, then that binary sensor, that switch, goes to false, and then we use that in our overview to tell this particular card here, as we can show you, that there is a power outage, yeah, and you can configure that whichever way you want. Now, once that is triggered, then I can use any number of other parts of Home Assistant. So we have automations here, and you can see some of my automations. These automations can then do things like wake the truck up. So when the home integration system changes from inverter off to preparing to power home, press the remote button sync in Ford Pass just to get an up-to-date information from the truck. And then I'm going to send a notification, right, to my home that says a power cut occurred. Now, obviously, this relies on me having batteries at the house, that the UPSs that work. We have a UPS in each of the offices. So I have 2 UPSs in the Transport Evolved edit room. My wife has a UPS for her computer. We've got one in the kitchen. We've got one in the family room. And then the server room has 2 massive batteries. So if there is a power glitch, which happens quite a lot in these necks of the woods, the computers don't automatically turn off. But that is how my system works. So you can now bring in the information, and you can also create a dashboard. So we'll do that right now. Let's create a dashboard. We are going to go to Local Ford Charge Station Pro. And we're going to add this to a dashboard. We're going to create, I don't know, maybe we'll make a dashboard, and we're going to make, let's say, make a new one, I think. Dashboard. Oh, we'll do it on vehicles. Okay, we're going to add that to the dashboard, and then we'll do this one as well. Add to dashboard, dashboard, vehicles. Next, add to dashboard, and then if I go to dashboard here, you'll see we've got some information here. Inverter off, vehicle connected, and job is a good one. So there you have it. That is the little Home Assistant project that I was working on over the holidays. There's some other stuff coming too. We have some work that I have been doing. That's a Charlie. We have some other work that I have been doing on my Vectrex VX1. I unfortunately managed to give myself a really nasty burn on my little finger while doing that. So I've kind of not done any soldering since that happened. I've got a little bit more soldering to do on the main board. I have cleaned it up a bunch. I have put in a new DC to DC converter. Initially, I was going to solder and film at the same time, but I decided that was dangerous. And, you know, after burning my finger on a heat gun, I'm kind of glad that I didn't film that. So that is coming down the line further along. Before I go, I do want to say thank you to Eric for his Ford Charge Station Pro API. That's the FCSP-API project, which is also on GitHub. Without that Python library, I wouldn't be able to have come up with what I did. So thanks to Eric. Support that project. If you want to jump in and help me with this one, please do. More hands is always better. And obviously, if you want to use this and test it out on your Ford Charge Station Pro. Usual disclaimers, don't sue me. This is a hobby project and it's completely passive, but I can tell you from experience, as I noted earlier in the video, if you try and poll the charging station too much, you can actually cause it to do weird things. So don't do that. Keep it sensible, play nicely, and let me know if you want us to make more videos like this, because we did say we wanted to do more DIY videos on the channel. And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Thanks for joining us today, and if you've got thoughts, make sure you leave them in our Discord chat room, on our Patreon page down below, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon or Blue Sky, or in fact, now our new website. Thanks to the list of names scrolling by on your screen right now. They are part of the massive community of supporters who make this channel possible, helping us through Patreon and YouTube, covering our bills, paying our team, and helping us to remain 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. We've got options available across a range of different price points from $1.50 US a month. A massive welcome to our newest supporters: Michael Anders, Tim Lynch, Kyriakos, Keith Irvin, Eric Printer, Chip Chandler, Marek Korlowski, Thornelli, Jake Alper, Howard Robertson, Dan Bow, Rex Baker, Bob F, Mark Brooks, Norman Davidson, Jean Lim, Lee Goldberg, Joseph Jarvis, John Taylor, Yaya, Kira Bell, Jim Richard, Andrew Honeycutt, Lee W. Benjamin, and Hacktor. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member today for your moment of fame, and you can now even gift membership to someone else. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations, and you can also send us a check through an old-fashioned PO box. There's a link to our website with the address below. Below, you'll also find links to our swag store, and if you are someone who has to shop on Amazon, please consider using our affiliate link, so we get the commission, not Jeff Bezos. So we can continue to focus on making our content even better and reduce burnout. We are a little fresher these days with the days we release content, but we do plan on dropping new videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday on this channel, plus something on Sunday over on Transport Evolved Take 2. If you want to watch more from us, the algorithm that hates us thinks you should be watching this video, but this one is one that we think you will also enjoy. Be awesome, be kind, be intentional, and don't forget to resist. Keep evolving.